everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie and I am a first-year law student in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And today I'm going to be telling you about 10 of my tips for doing law school online, because it's 2020 and just like a lot of universities, they're all moved to Zoom for the semester. So I thought it'd be a great time to just talk about some of the ways that I'm making that a little bit easier and trying to take advantage of the situation as best I can. So tip number one is to have separate spaces for studying and doing your classwork. And I think that this is really important because we're not leaving our apartment or our home very much. We're doing all of our classes, all of our classwork, all of that from home. And so it's really important that you try to create some sort of separation, whether that's in a different room or even just a different seat if you don't have enough space. It really help to break up the day and kind of trick your brain into thinking that you are moving into a new environment, even if it's just very slight. Tip number two is to keep your phone across from the room from you, or at least face down. So I know that this one is challenging because you are getting messages on your phone, or sometimes I like to have it as a backup for hotspotting in case Wi-Fi goes out or something along those lines. But it really is best to try to keep it away from you as much as possible when you're doing especially online classes. So for me, I'll try to put it on a table across from me, or at least at minimum face down on the desk. Otherwise, I find that I get distracted through messages or apps or just group me messages that are coming in from people in the class. So that's something that can be really helpful in aiding your focus throughout the class, so you're not tempted just to end up scrolling on your phone. Tip number three is along the same lines as number two, but for this one, it's to close out of all non-school related tabs on your computer. And I think that this is important because we often end up having a lot of tabs for all of the various things that we've been looking into on our computer, and sometimes it can be a bit distracting. So I think that it is really helpful if you can only have things related to your classes open at one time. Yes, it is true that you could just open another tab, you could go onto social media or whatever, but I do think any little added layer of friction kind of inhibits you from doing that as quickly and as easily, and in the end does help your focus even just a little bit. Tip number four, and this is the most challenging one for me, and that's to remember to take breaks. I think because we're not in a traditional school environment where you would move from one classroom to another, or maybe you would go to the library, there's very little to break up the day. And because of that, you are spending a lot of time just looking at your computer screen and going to classes, then studying classes and studying. So I think it is really helpful to remember to take breaks in that time. And one way to do that is to set timers on your phone. A few people have recommended to me that to set a timer for every 50 minutes so that you can take a 10-minute break. Like I said, I'm far from perfect on this. I often forget to take breaks and I'll sit there for a few hours at a time before I realize it, but it really is helpful just to take even 5 minutes every hour just to give your brain a minute to reset and focus. Tip number five is to give yourself time away from screens in the evening. Like I said, you're spending all of your day on classes and work that's largely on a computer. So for me, one thing that I like to do is after I finish my classes and my work for the day, I like to just go for a short walk around my neighborhood, and that really helps me to break up the day in the way that a commute might normally have done. But because we are in the same place and in the same environment, one way to kind of trick your brain into recognizing that change is just to go for a walk to sort of signify that this is the end of the workday and now I'm moving into the evening. And I think that it's even better when it's something like a walk that does help to break up that screen time as well. So tip number six is to join organizations at the law school and to get a mentor through them. In law school, there's always a lot of talk about mentors and networking and how important it is. And I think now more than ever, that's really challenging because you don't have the traditional events where you would get to meet people and get to know them. And while that is a challenge that I'm not sure that there's a perfect solution to, I will say that a lot of organizations recognize that, and student organizations in particular are trying to combat that by offering extra activities and programs in order for people to get some some element of that experience. And so I would encourage anyone in law school or planning to do law school and it is online to try to take advantage of those programs and meet people as best you can, people that are in the second year or third year, or even professionals who have had some experience with online work and with online law school, and they can offer some context for that and also just about law school in general. So it's definitely a great opportunity, and it still is there despite everything in this situation. Tip number 7 is to take advantage of virtual office hours. And that's something that professors at every law school will say is, oh, come to the office hours. If you have any questions, please come to my office hours. And I think that in normal times, when you are in person, it is easy just to avoid doing that because you have to go all the way to their office at that exact time. But now, because everyone's online, everyone's doing the online law experience, and because of that, it's much easier just to drop in quickly. So there's been a lot of times where I have a question and I'll actually go look at the syllabus and realize my professor's office hours are in 15 minutes. And so I can just go and show up, ask my few questions, and then leave. It really does get rid of a lot of those barriers that there might be to actually going to their office hours if we were on campus. So that's just one small benefit to actually being online. So I do think it's a great opportunity to take advantage of that and get to know your professors a little bit. So tip number 8 is about setting an amount of extracurricular activities that you would like to go to. And for this, I am talking about academic related extracurriculars. And so I think that because everything is online and via Zoom, there's a lot of Zoom fatigue. It's real that it gets tiring looking at the screen all day and being on video calls. So I do think that it's good to kind of set a goal for yourself for maybe 2 events per month or 1 per week, whatever works best for you. Tip number 9 is to set patterns of when you do certain readings and when you work on your outlining. It can be easy for the days and the assignments to sort of blend together. So I think it's really valuable to try to create some of that structure that you might have otherwise. And one of the ways of doing that is assigning your readings and work to certain days. So for example, for me, the day that I have my contracts class, I do my contracts reading that day as well. So I finish the class and then I'll go ahead and do the reading for the following contracts class, and I'll do the same thing for my other classes. And that's just something that can help to hold me accountable and give me a sense of rhythm to my week. And along those lines as well, I'll do outlining on the weekends. And my last tip, tip number 10, is to remember that this is new for everyone, and it's no different for law students or law professors. So it's a challenging time as everyone's kind of adjusting to how to work online, how to make these classes valuable for people online, and that's something that we're all trying to grapple with at this point. And so just be gentle with yourself and recognize that you are learning and you are improving. I can see enormous strides in my own abilities from the beginning of this to now in terms of how I can handle the online classes. And I think it's just important to step back and realize it is a new situation, but we are learning. So those are all of my 10 tips for how to navigate law school online. I hope that you found them helpful. And if you did, then you can like this video, leave a comment down below, and please subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.